Hi, everyone. This is Wendy Walker. Welcome to this week's edition of Book Brag. I'm here with my co-host, Lynn Constantine of the Liv Constantine Writing Duo. And we have today a very special guest, Paula McLain, whose latest novel, When the Stars Go Dark, is out today. And Paula, hi Paula,
Hi.
is the New York Times bestselling author of The Paris Wife, Circling the Sun, and Love and Ruin. She began her writing career after a childhood spent in the California foster care system and supporting herself as a young adult with a wide array of jobs. She received her MFA in poetry from the University of Michigan and is now a widely acclaimed, award-winning author who has been published in 34 languages. When the Stars Go Dark is her first thriller. So we brought her over to the dark side from historical fiction.
If this is the dark side, I'm just delighted because you guys look pretty fabulous to me.
Welcome, Paula. It's so great to have you here. So we have to start with the inception of this wonderful novel and your decision to switch genres. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I make all my decisions intuitively, for better or for worse, which means I didn't make a decision, right? My subconscious had an agenda, apparently, because I was deep into my last historical novel, Love and Ruin. In fact, I was in the Spanish Civil War in 1937 in the head of Martha Gellhorn. He's a war correspondent married to Ernest Hemingway. And suddenly I went for a dog walk one day, and this idea came out of the sky, like at me, right? I just pictured this missing persons detective who becomes obsessed with a missing girl, sort of in spite of herself, in an unhealthy way. And I just knew, I don't know, by the time I got back from my dog walk, I knew where it was set. I sort of knew what the backstory was. And do you ever do that, by the way? It's sort of like you're going to the movies, right? Your imagination kind of takes over and you follow characters in your mind. Anyway, that's what happens to me sometimes. I go on a walk and it feels like I'm going to the movies. Right. And sometimes I get home and I just flick that idea away because it's obviously not for me. It belongs to somebody else. But this time when I flicked it away, it came back, and then it came back again, and it came back again. And finally I talked to my agent and I said, "You're going to kill me. This is just nuts, right? What do I know about writing a thriller?" And she said, "I think it's an amazing idea." So I went for it.
Now you've had two articles in the New York Times, two pieces in the New York Times, one in Modern Love, and one was an article about you and how you drew from growing up in California and some of your experiences in your own life with this character. And was that part of the idea that came to you on this dog walk, or did you realize that you had this connection to her as you were writing?
Yeah, I think if I had that idea on the dog walk, I probably would have run screaming in the other direction. So for 10 years, I've been writing in the voices of women from history. And then suddenly I'm writing the first purely imaginative character that I've encountered in a decade, and the ceiling flew off, right? And something happened when the ceiling flew off, which is that I just began to knit in my own obsessions. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly Anna had my thinking, right? My sensitivity to, for instance, victimhood, what it means to be a victim, how we get there anyway. This is something I've been obsessed with because I grew up in a really traumatic way, and it's embedded in my nervous system. Suddenly I had a message, right? I had a platform and I had a character that I could talk through to say things that matter to me, significant things about the human story. So she's not just searching for a victim, she's trying to get over, whatever, her deepest regrets and find her way through to self-forgiveness. And her obsession with the victim has everything to do with what she's suffered and how sensitive she is to human suffering and what she knows about what we carry.
In terms of you're trying to completely switch gears and you're saying, you were schooled. So what surprised you most, or what was the most difficult part for you in writing this thriller?
Right. Just how difficult it would be and how much fun the difficulty would be simultaneously. So I'm an intuitive writer. I don't use note cards. I don't use a timeline. I don't have a plan, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's so time consuming, and yet because I got my start as a poet, what I'm really looking for always is to grab onto something, a voice. And from the beginning, I realized that I didn't have to write like an original mystery, like a mystery that no one's ever thought of before, a box in a box in a box. I'm not that kind of writer. I really wanted to write about people. Like that's my happy place,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And the first person voice is another one of my, it's just an anchor point for me. It's like how I write books. So, it wasn't all new. And plus I'm always writing about resilience. So there were these anchor points that kind of kept reconnecting me to the story every time I got off center. But fun, it was freaking fun.
We always ask that we call it book brag because we try to give authors permission to shamelessly read their best or most favorite review from anywhere about the book.
A psychological thriller that deftly evokes both the entrancing landscape of the Mendocino Hills and the rough terrain of shattered lives. Most memorable of all are the girls, past and present, who emerge here not as convenient victims, but as vulnerable, believable characters.
Very nice.
So to me, when I read that, I just thought, oh, thank you. I felt deeply understood, and just that, not convenient victims. They're not there just to disappear, right? They're not there just to move my plot forward. And that to me was very much my purpose.
Wonderful. Yeah, so we're going to switch gears a little bit and let readers get to know Paula personally a little bit better. And this is the lightning round. So we just ask quick questions. So, right. What is the best part about being a mom?
I think it's that my kids are interesting people. I guess that surprised me as they got older. I have a 14 and 16-year-old at home, and just listening to their thoughts around the dinner table, what they think about, and their, strange little whatever. My son's obsessed with like Balkan folk music, and he's reading, Nabokov, and I mean, interesting, weird and interesting, and it's really fun to have them.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Do you watch television? And if so, is there anything that you've been watching lately that you've been enjoying?
Yeah, so we're super obsessed with Ink Master, which is a tattoo it's reality show. We also watch Alone. Do you guys know this show where they take 10 people to wherever, right, Mongolia or the Arctic Circle, and they have 10 items in a backpack and have to survive on their own and film themselves and
Okay, so Paula, you have written about Hemingway in 2 of your novels. Do you have a favorite quote or anecdote about him?
Yeah, one of my favorite anecdotes actually comes from his older son, John Hemingway, who is Bumby in The Paris Wife, if you've read it. And he talked about how they would take these cross-country trips. His dad liked to be in the car with his kids, right? And his dad had a rule, no swearing for the kids in the back seat until 4 o'clock, and then all bets were off, right? So from 4 p.m. on, they could just, yes, exactly.
If you had to choose a career other than writing, and I know you've had a lot of jobs when you were younger, but what other career or occupation do you think you would love to do?
I would have done something with food, honestly.
Oh.
I definitely, I worked my way through. I was still a waitress actually at 37. And that's mainly how I made a living and managed to keep writing, like even as a single parent, right? Waiting tables in order to pay the bills. And it's how I learned about food. It's, being in the kitchen and seeing different flavor combinations and thinking of food as creative. I learned to cook by watching other people cook.
Hmm.
And now I collect cookbooks. Food is how I show people I love them. And food is also how I ground myself. Like, I'm not about to go on tour, unfortunately, but if I was about to go on tour, what I would do the moment I got home was like put on an apron and get super dirty and make a meal for my family, because that to me is how I come home again.
So, do you have a favorite genre to read that you like to read?
Yeah, I think my favorite genre is actually memoir. For instance, I just read Dani Shapiro's book, Inheritance, about learning that her father is not her biological father. And to me, there's just something that's so, if you're a good memoirist, right? And not just, in control of your story, but also ready to surrender to the process of kind of not knowing how to grapple with the contents of your life and events, surprising events, and how we're thrown off kilter, and then what happens after that. If you're able to convey that to a reader, and they can be as engrossed in the process, that can be a kind of magic.
Well, this has been so much fun to talk to you and bring you into our lovely dark side of thriller writing. And everyone, When the Stars Go Dark is out today. It's available wherever books are sold, in all formats: audio, ebook, hardcover, and everyone should go out and get it. Paula, do you want to tell people how they can connect with you, where you are on social media, and your website?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Paula McLain, and I'm obviously on Facebook as well. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you think about my book if you pick it up. And I'm just super delighted to be part of this community, and for today, part of this trio of women interested in story and books. And thank you.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure. And we'll see everybody next week.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.